This episode brought to you by Peter Wood's Museum of the Impossible.
What's a Museum of the Impossible? It's gonna be like Harry Potter meets Ripley's Believe It or Not. It'll be a one-of-a-kind, themed, interactive space where people can experience the impossible. But I need your help. To get the project started, I've set up a Patreon over at museumoftheimpossible.com. If you're able to throw a few bucks my way each month, we can build it together. Thanks for your support, and I can't wait to welcome you into the Museum of the Impossible. Welcome to the podcast of the impossible. I'm Peter Wood, and my guest this episode has been on the DC entertainment scene for over a decade. Please welcome podcaster, professional magician, and stand-up comedian, Charlie Ross. Welcome back. Hello.
Happy to be back, Ann.
It's been weeks or months since we did this last. We don't, but we're wearing the same clothes today.
I was gonna rip it off. I was ready to go.
If anyone wants to go back, a little Easter egg. My buddy Adam Stone was on a couple of early episodes. We did it virtually, and he did have 4 different changes of costume for the 4. I think we did 4 episodes, and I'm wearing. I mean, it's no surprise to our friend listening here that we obviously these are done in a block, but Adam made it look like it was a different day every time. So that's speaking
shaved, man. I should have.
We want folks to experience, when we're hanging out, between shows or backstage, and this is what happens, you know? So let's talk about podcasting. You have done a good amount of podcasting, both as a guest and also as someone who's hosting it. What sort of started, what was the seed of that? What made you want to get into that, at the first time?
Yeah, I was a big fan of, getting into stand-up comedy, and you're following up and coming comedians, and it is really popular for guys just to have their own podcast. It was a cheap way to just create content and material and build a fan base.
Sure.
And then you just see these success stories of guys just messing around with their friends, just getting huge followings, and starting this big national fan base, because you can send it everywhere. So it was always kind of this dream of man, if I could get paid just to dick around with my friend,
sure,
to watch funny videos, man, what a dream. That would be a really cool way to help your career. So yeah, I we don't do it anymore. It was called the Classified Podcast.
Okay.
And I was doing video stuff, and I was having people on where once an episode I'm showing them a magic trick, trying to fuse them together a little bit. And then it kind of turned into just me and my buddy just talking about recent events and stuff, and just trying to make each other laugh and tell stories and stuff.
Cool. Okay.
But yeah, it's super fun. It was nice to have a regimen of every week we show up and we save. You try to think of something funny, or you try and pull up a YouTube video or something, and
that's cool.
It's good to try and share stuff with your friend.
Yeah, no, I do. So, I mean, obviously the format of this show is, ongoing conversations, but also a little bit more interview, one-on-one. And the cool thing about that is it is a comedy club where I've got multiple folks coming through here, but there are times where it makes it harder to have any sort of runner, a sort of callbacks and stuff. I obviously, there are some folks who aren't listening to every episode, but also if I make a reference to you about something that we talked about 2 months ago, then it's not going to land because you weren't here, So it is, I'm interested in that sort of medium as well, but the podcast where you're sort of bantering, because then you feel like you're in the room with these people, you're hanging out with them on a regular basis. They become sort of friends. It's a one-sided friendship, but it's
I think a lot of this podcasting style of the stuff that I really get into is just comics, just kind of freeform stuff. It comes from a lot of talk radio. It comes from Howard Stern, Opie and Anthony type of stuff, where it's just you just try and make try and think of something funny,
right.
And then there's other shows I listen to that are very regimented, they're they have an outline, they're doing a history of this, or a true crime thing where you got to hit all these facts, so
right.
It's this funny balance of the different stuff that you listen to,
What are some, do you have any podcast pet peeves that come to mind, that other people are, whenever you're trying to listen to maybe a podcast you do but then is there something that you told yourself, I'm definitely not going to do that whenever I'm on a podcast or hosting my own? Or I'm trying to now that the only thing that I was thinking about when this is the opposite of pet peeve. This is a compliment, but I'll turn it into a negative. I love, there's a podcast I listen to where a guy is basically treating the microphone like another person there at the table. And I always liked the idea that we have one listener right now and they're here hanging out with us at the table, right? And that's, I think that's kind of a cool...
And you don't get to say anything.
Yeah.
You keep your mouth shut.
Exactly. You don't even have a microphone. All you're listening to us talk about one way, you know? But I thought, so then there are also times where like, I'll hear some podcasts like, what's up, whatever nation? Thank you guys so much for, and I'm like, dude, you've got 6 followers. Like it is the opposite. Like you're doing a living room show and you're trying to make it sound like you're playing a stadium, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't know, anything that bothers you?
Yeah, no, definitely the third, the conversational aspect of it where it really feels like you're like in the room with it, like in the conversation. I probably overshared a couple of times on the podcast. As a comic, you kind of just struggle with like, you want to find something funny, and sometimes like embarrassing stuff is just like the funniest thing you can think of.
Yeah,
you know?
Sure.
So you're just pulling up stuff, or like, I had like an ex-girlfriend a couple of years ago where she would listen to the podcast. It was like, it's a new relationship, and she's like, she's still trying to figure me out a little bit.
Okay.
And then it didn't work out because we weren't right for each other. But I think she kind of realized that like, you really talk different like with your friends on the podcast than you do with me.
Interesting.
And I'm like, oh yeah, because I'm scared of showing you who I actually am. Yeah, I mean,
that's awesome.
It's a terrible fit.
Right.
She was 100% right. I'm like, yeah, I really don't. Yeah, I'm not myself when I'm around you.
Well, and that's and how crazy that like you're more willing to be open in yourself in this like void where like you don't know who's on the other end of this mic, and yet there is like. On one hand, you and I are hanging out here in a room just chatting, which has its own level of freedom of whatever we want to say. But then on the other hand, you know, intellectually we know that someone else is listening in and we don't know who. But it's sort of hard for that to get into like our heart of hearts sometimes, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's a tricky. I definitely never. Anytime I've got a friend here hanging out, I'm never trying to set any like traps or get into any like if they're bringing up something that I'm like, okay, if you want to go there, that's cool, but like I wasn't gonna,
So how's the divorce going?
right yeah, no, it's well, and yeah, just trying to figure out what I want to make sure it's interesting and things that people are curious about.
No, I mean, I think there's a void in like the podcast community for like magicians, and I think I listen to a lot of stuff, so it was kind of hard to do like this magic podcasting idea without the camera, and then even with that, I think I had friends who were like, yeah, try, like I listen to the show, it's kind of weird when you do the magic part because I'm just listening, like I'm driving my car and like, I get to hear a react, you get to listen to a magic trick. It's kind of a weird,
right?
So yeah, that didn't work out too well, but I think magic is kind of like people are interested in it, and we don't get to talk about this stuff all the time, and it is this fun line where we're like, there's this big, these huge secrets that we don't want to reveal to anybody, this whole mystery part of it.
Yep.
But it's like, it's cool. We get to like kind of dive in and out of like, we'll show you some behind the curtain, but not like the full backstage,
Yeah. Well, and I also think, I mean, I probably a lot like stand-up comedy. I don't think people realize the amount of thought and work and time that we will put into some really stupid minutia, where if you've got one little line or joke in your show that you will keep hammering at from different angles. And even if it's getting a laugh, if like, I could push this a little bit more and make it that much funnier. And so that's, I think, true with magic as well, where like, we will talk about the silliest little stuff of like how slippery a playing card is for this particular move, but I hope that also folks realize, okay, well, that's when you see a comedian who looks like they're just doing it effortlessly and you're enjoying what they're doing, there's probably a lot that went to get to that point. There's a lot going on.
It's like good technical theater too. It's like,
sure,
you want to, it's really good when you don't notice anything.
Right.
When the lights go up and down, and the music is perfect, and everyone's mic is good, it's like, that's the best, as good as it gets. It's like, it's all hidden,
That's true.
Yeah.
Now, so you've got a bit of a theater background as well, right? Is that what you did for college, or was that something?
No, it was high school theater, and then I auditioned to like do acting at the school, and they rejected me, and then I auditioned again freshman year, and they rejected me again. I think I'm not a good actor, and So yeah, I did some student plays, like some one act plays and stuff. And then there was a good variety show that at the school that I went to at VCU, and I would do that a lot too. But yeah, I think I still identify as a nerdy little theater kid.
Sure.
The high school theater program was like kind of this intense theater lady, this drama teacher, and wonderful woman. She would like have everyone involved in these plays, but we did like competition acts, and we like competed, like got like pretty far in a couple of competitions. You get to like travel around, and yeah, so it was really cool. It was very like informative, like helpful, personality building stuff.
Nice. Okay. And do you feel like, do you see where things that you picked up there are now informing your magic and your comedy, or was it sort of more of like a groundwork that is sort of hard? Like, I don't know how many times you'll find a specific something from that, or if it was just like a general thing. Yeah,
it was good, just like for general like life philosophy of just like, I remember a couple of rules that like nitpicky stuff our teacher would say to us was like, when we were giving feedback to each other, instead of saying you should do this, it's like you say you could do this.
Oh, that's great.
And it's these little like ways to communicate with people, and like what sounds better, like when you're trying to hear constructive criticism, it's like you could do this, instead of saying like, hey, you should change it this way, little things like that.
That's great.
And then not over apologizing for things.
Okay.
I think she always get mad when like she tells you to do something, you don't do it or whatever, and she always have like dramatic theater kids who are like, oh, I'm so sorry, like, and they just do this over apology, and it's like, stop wasting everyone's time. Right. You say you're sorry once, and then you say it won't happen again.
Sure.
And then you like, and so that stuff is like I just kept in my like life in general, like whatever jobs I've had and communicating with bosses, you're like, you acknowledge the mistake, and then like we don't need any excuses, it's like if you're at fault of it, that's fine, and say it won't happen again, because it probably won't happen again. So little things like that I really like stick with me. So shout out Miss Cadby.
Yeah, I definitely remember learning in high school theater, our teacher telling us, if anyone asks how the show is going, the answer is always, rehearsals are going great. Be sure to buy your tickets.
Yeah.
And even when things are completely on fire behind the scenes, it is not going to be good for anyone's PR if you're sort of feeding the gossip machine or whatever. So it is funny how that has become, certainly in other like theatrical endeavors, but even just other like life type things. Like if it's someone who really needs to know how something's going, I'll tell them. But otherwise, like, if you can keep it positive, and also, like I said, it's not just rehearsals are going great, don't forget to buy your tickets. Like it's almost this call to action.
Yeah.
Like make sure, everything's going great. Did you buy your tickets yet? Like that's why we're doing this to we have to raise money for the drama department or whatever.
Yeah. It's like when you ask someone how they're doing, and you're like, I'm not getting any sleep right now, and you're like, hey,
whoa. I didn't actually care.
Yeah, let's calm down.
I was just being polite.
Save it for therapy, man.
Yeah. No, I'll try to have something, how's your day going? Oh, pretty good. And then I'll give like a weird nugget of what, but I mean, thankfully also like you and I have lives that are, interesting and entertaining enough. Like we're not just going to a cubicle all day, every day. And so thankfully we can have those little, like, I was doing the show recently or whatever, we've got, we can tell people how it's going or what's going on and have it be something more than, same old, like, okay, that's kind of depressing,
Yeah.
So I know we've talked before about sort of the different types of venues that you'll do comedy. What about magic? Like what sort of venue type areas, what sort of variety? I know you don't do like big stage shows, and I know a lot of your jam is like up close, sort of strolling sleight of hand type stuff.
Yeah.
Where do you enjoy?
Dude, I like strolling magic. I haven't done a lot of restaurant work. I think I'm really interested in like trying to get more of that, trying to get more consistent.
Okay.
Table to table stuff. I like small interactions with people. But strolling like corporate events, so many galas, he has so many places. There's like large carpeted rooms, with people awkwardly in suits.
Sure.
And so I have a pretty good approach when I'm like in my zone, when I'm in my element, like I can really vibe with people. So I love walk around stuff, and it's like it's such a short performance too. Like this laziness comes out of me where it's like I just get to do the same 5 tricks all night, and like and then I'm not doing 5 the whole. I'm throwing in new stuff too, but it's like it's so comfortable where it's just like here's the first trick. you're gauging if they want to see a second one. Like, you guys want to see a second one? They say yes,
Yeah.
And then sometimes I feel so proud of myself when you like, you show someone a magic trick, you can tell that they want to talk to their friend, and you get out quickly,
Oh yeah.
And it's like they don't even realize how cool I'm being right now, like they don't, like I am
That's
like
great.
a master right now. Like I can tell you guys have something you want to talk about. Let me get out of your way, like
Yeah.
So I like those little like minutia details. You can see, what they want to get out of this experience.
That's a good, yeah. I mean, I think being able to read the room. And now how do you approach, so like you've been hired by somebody to go and show everyone magic tricks, right? And some people, but then you've got to approach them. What's sort of your philosophy, or do you have like your opening line type stuff, or how do you sort of approach a group when you are doing that type of strolling?
Yeah. I walk up and I do a card spring.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Usually I'm holding my deck of cards, Okay. So I have the prop, and then I immediately tell them like, hey guys, my name's Charlie. I'm a magician. Jeff hired me to walk around and do magic. If I can get the person's name, somebody asked me to, I let them know I'm supposed to be here.
Right.
I didn't come in off the street, so
yeah.
I try and tell them immediately, like, this is someone else's idea, to let me off the hook, let everyone else off the hook of like, this is his. So if you don't like it, blame him.
That's smart.
And usually that's just a good thing of like, so they know like, yeah, I'm supposed to be doing this. So usually they'll like, all right, we'll give you a shot, whether they believe, in me or not. So just saying like, hey, they asked me can I show you a quick magic trick,
Okay. Yeah.
Or if it's, I kind of use like stereotypes or whatever. If there's like an older lady, I'll say, would you like to see a quick illusion? And I'll fancy things up for some people, and make it seem better. And so, or if they're like some like alpha guys, or if men are like taller than me or something, they seem like some big jock athletes or whatever. I'll say, would you like to see some sleight of hand?
Okay.
Because these little things of like, now the alpha, like he's gonna try and catch you,
Okay.
And I think they can appreciate the idea that this is sleight of hand, that like it's something physical, it's something that'll happen in front of you. And it's kind of this game that we're going to play now, like you can try and catch me. You're not going to, but you can try,
Sure. No, so. That's a great, I mean, yeah, because, walking up to people and saying, would you like to see a magic trick, is like saying, walking up to people and saying, is it okay if I lie to you for a little bit? Like, what an absurd, like, what? No, I don't want you to trick me. I'm having a good time here. What, but if you are honest about the fact that what you're about to see is sleight of hand, or an illusion or whatever, then I love that helps to bring their guard down a little bit. And again, if they don't know how it's done, that's fine later. But like you don't want to walk up and say, "Can I fool you with something?" Like
and then with kids, it's can you help me with this magic trick?
Oh yeah,
can you?
Sure.
Yeah, so because kids, I mean, you're kind of taking advantage of like an adult that's telling you to do something now. Be like, "Hey, could you help me?" But if they want to be involved, then they want to be helpful,
Sure.
If they're kind of shy and they don't want to be involved, at least they're being nice, and they're like they're gonna have a good time, but it's like it is a good way to be like, hey, can you help? Can you do it too?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep. No. I mean, and I guess when you are booking one of these, like, do you typically have the same stuff on you, or how much are you tweaking with, like, based on what you know of the group? Do you have your sort of core pocket management, or does it change up depending on who's going to be there,
Yeah, I it mostly depends on new things that I want to try.
Okay.
So changing up like where things are in the pockets usually is kind of frustrating, because like you go the whole night without opening one pocket. You're like, I want to do this mentalism packet thing the whole time.
Sure.
I forget. So I'm kind of like set with like at least where the cards are, where the set deck of cards is, and then where different things are. But depending on the night of like, all right, you told yourself you're going to try something new. The new pocket is going to be over here, So it's mostly based on what I kind of get hired for the same gala events over again. So it kind of just depends on like what I'm feeling that night.
And will you see a lot of the same people if it's like an annual event? Do you end up seeing regulars who want to see something new, or is it pretty much different audiences every time?
Yeah. And I'm bad at remembering people's names. That's why I think I don't get called back a lot. I don't form these like nice relationships with clients or whatever.
Okay.
Man, I did this like charity event. My uncle hired me for. It was like Italian American businessman charity thing, big gala up in Timonium, Maryland. And it was cool because I would come year after year, and I would I brought like Alon New, I brought another friend with me, Dan, And because it was just such a big thing, and we were just doing walk around magic before the night really kicked off, and it was cool because it was like 2 hours, good pay, lots of people, so it was nice. It was easy to bounce around. Like the biggest criticism was like not enough people would see me.
Sure,
that's why I had to bring extra people. But I got like some dad's like 80-year-old birthday party from that. I went and did their birthday party, saw them the next year at the gala, and I couldn't remember their names. So in their minds, they're like, Charlie. I've been in their home, I drank their water, and then like for me, I'm like, I know their faces. I know what I did with them. And I'm just like, I got nothing. And I'm bad at being like, I'm so sorry, I forgot your name. Like it would have been easier if I just fake it.
Yeah.
And now we're both like, it's obvious you don't know our names. I'm like, I'm an idiot.
That's so, no, that happens. All, I mean, like, because we're seeing folks, I mean, yeah, I will recognize their face, and I'm going through the like, okay, like I can always tell, like, did I see you at a gig, or are you like the, parent of one of my daughter's friends, right? Like I can usually get you in a category.
Yeah.
But then it's like, okay, I don't remember, like I've had people come up, especially if it's like out of context. Like I do my Howard County Fair gig every year, and like there are people who I see every year at that fair. And so like, I'm sort of thinking about it. And even if I don't know your name or don't remember your name, at least I'm sort of expecting to see you there.
Yeah.
But I've had multiple people come up to me at the fair, and like they look familiar, and it's because they were a client who hired me in, the winter, and I do their holiday party or whatever. They might see me at someone's holiday, but and because it's been 7 months later now, and it's like, it's out in the middle of an August sun. It's amazing how much I've sort of linked them with being indoors and cold, as opposed to this totally different venue.
Yeah. And in close-up scenarios, it's a little bit easier to remember faces, sure. Like the human brain, we kind of naturally like hold on to faces if we have to recognize them.
Yeah.
But then I've done like comedy shows or magic gigs where it's like you're on a stage, there's lights in front of you, and audience members will come up to you as if you're like, you had an interaction. And sometimes you're doing crowd work with people and you're bantering, Yeah. And it's like, I've had people come up to me like months later and be like, you remember me? The cocaine goldfish joke? I'm like, what are you talking about?
What?
It's like something that just came off my head. I'm like, I have no, and you have to just pretend like, oh, you're at that show. Like, yeah. I see, and then I sound arrogant too. I'm like, I have a lot of audience members.
No, it's hard. Yeah.
I get booked a lot.
Sure. No, it is. I mean, and it's a double-edged sword, because you're flattered that they felt that connected with you.
Yeah.
That but I mean, yeah, they are forgetting, sort of like podcasts. Like I'm sure, there are folks listening to this right now who inevitably know more about me than I know about them. And I mean, I'm okay with that, because that's the way this thing goes. But at the same time, it is weird if you are talking to someone after a show or they remember seeing you last year, and they remember exactly, oh, do you remember that you did this thing with the blah, blah? I'm like, no, I don't. I vaguely remember being here, but, but again, a lucky problem to have,
Yeah, exactly.
Well, this was great, and we should do it again. But in the meantime, if anyone wants to find out more about all of your magical adventures, or certainly if they're cooking up some event in the greater DC area, you're kind of like me. You'll go throughout the Baltimore and DC and Northern Virginia, like all that sort of area. So the website,
I'll drive anywhere. I need gigs, man. I'll go to Canada. I don't care, man.
That's fine.
Any listeners in Thailand?
I mean, I guess you're probably better than I do think about like my weird, impossible stuff. Getting it through TSA is a pain.
Yeah.
But so the next time you're booking your gala in Indonesia, CharlieRossMagic.com is the website you want to go to.
Yeah.
And then you've also got all sorts of great photos and videos on social media. So the Instagram for that is @CharlieRossMagic. And be sure to check that out. Thanks for hanging out here with me today.
Thanks, Peter.
And if you want to hear more about some of the stuff I've got going on, of course, the big one is the Museum of the Impossible Project, but I also have info about public shows and private events and stuff like that. You can head on over to peterwood.com. I'm Peter Wood. Thanks.